right, everyone, we are back for example 5. So you can graph a function on a scatter plot to help show a relationship in the data. Sometimes the function is a straight line. This line is called a trend line, and that helps show the correlation between data sets more clearly. It can also be helpful when making predictions based on the data. So here are 3 different graphs, okay? And this actually refers to the previous example that we were looking at. And what we want to do is just we want to practice drawing trend lines. So what happens is there's some type of thing out in the world, and people collect data. Now, once they collect that data, they collect that data as ordered pairs, and then they plot those, and then they look at that data and they see, is there a trend? Is there a pattern going on? And if they do, then what they do is they make a trend line, and then they use that trend line to help predict the future. And yeah, and so what we're going to do is there's a lot of different points here. And so when you draw that trend line, what you want to try to do is you want to try to draw it so that you have some points on one side of the line and some points on the other side. So here, it looks like I have about, kind of 2 points there. I got 3 points over there. I'm kind of going through the middle here. So I'd say this looks like a pretty good trend line for that data. Okay, and I'm just gonna practice it again over here. So here it really looks like those 3 kind of line up. But I have these 2 here on this side. So you want to kind of have the same number of dots. So I got 2 dots on this side. I'm kind of really going through there. There's kind of 2 on that side. So I think this looks like a pretty good trend line here. All right. So then I could predict future values and also make an equation for this line. All right, let's look at this now. This one's kind of a negative correlation and going downward. So I want to try to have some points on one side of the line and some points on the other. And then you just kind of make a trend line like that. Okay? And then you can use that, if I want to know, well, what is it at 4? You just go up. Or what is it at 3? Then you just go up to that trend line. Or what is it at 2? Then you go up to the trend line and figure out what the y value is. All right? Let's look at an example. So with this particular example, the trend line is actually already drawn. Now, in some of your problems, you're going to have to draw a trend line, but I just wanted to look at this. You see how the trend line is kind of right where those points are? Okay, so this says the scatter plot shows a relationship between the total amount of money collected at the concession stand and the total number of tickets sold at a movie theater. Based on this relationship, predict how much money will be collected at the concession stand when 150 tickets have been sold. First step is to draw a trend line and use it to make a prediction. So usually what happens, there's a table of points, and you plot those points as a scatter plot, right? And then you draw a trend line just like we did in those previous examples. So this is the trend line that was drawn. Make sure that when you're dealing with this, you label the axes. So this is the ticket sold, this is the concession, and we have concession stand sales. So what we want to know is predict how much money will be collected. See, we're predicting the future. Predict how much money will be collected at the concession stand when 150 tickets have been sold. So let's see here. It looks like these are in increments of 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Okay, so that means 120, 140. This is going to be 160 here. So 150 would be halfway between 140. So this would be 150. I'm just going to write it on this side just because 140 is kind of in the way. And then we just kind of go straight up from there. And what do we get? We go straight up and right about like here. Let me see. I'm just going to use this here. And if I go straight up from that point, trying to make it a straight line, this graph paper is really, really faint. It would would be right about there. Okay, so this would be my mark right there. And if I put that over here, that's gonna be right about there, which would be, okay, what is this? 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. I'm gonna say about 750. That's what it looks like. So based on this, yeah, this was 700, 800, halfway in between there, 700. So I would say this point is 150, 750. So how much money will be collected at the concession stand when 150 tickets have been sold? $750 will be collected at the concession stand when 150 tickets are sold. All right. Perfect. Okay, let's look at a different example here. Okay, so based on the trend line, okay, so we have another scatter plot here, and here's the trend line. Predict how many wrapping paper rolls need to be sold to raise $500. Okay, so I just think that this line looks like it's off. This whole thing looks like it's off. You know what? Let's not worry about this problem. We'll just leave it at that. Okay,